Hey, Raiders fans, the kind of day we're living through right now feels like one of those long desert afternoons where the sun just hangs over the horizon and refuses to go down. You look at this team, you look at what's happening on the field, and you can feel that weight sitting on your shoulders like a stack of pads after practice. And honestly, the only thought running through my mind lately is how badly this organization needs a fresh start. Because watching the Raiders stumble their way through another painful stretch has turned into something almost surreal, and it all circles back to one name: Pete Carroll. And I know that sounds wild to some people, because the man has a legacy in this sport bigger than most coaches could ever dream of, but that legacy belongs to a different chapter, not this one. What we're watching in Las Vegas right now doesn't resemble anything that once made him great. It feels like everyone's looking around the room, waiting for someone to admit what we all already know. This is not working. And no team, especially not this one, can afford to drift like this without direction. When you watch this version of the Raiders, you don't just see a team with problems. You see a team without identity. There's no pulse on offense. There's no spark on defense. And every special team snap feels like a coin flip held together by hope. That Monday night performance was the perfect illustration of how far things have slipped. From the opening moment to the final whistle, it felt like watching a crew trying to patch a sinking ship using duct tape and positive thoughts. There was no rhythm, no balance, no sense that the staff understood what this roster actually does well. You look at an offense that keeps chasing its own tail, a defense that can't get lined up consistently without something going wrong, and a coaching staff that insists it has everything under control while the scoreboard insists otherwise. And when Pete Carroll stepped up and said he played a part in designing an offensive plan that had Geno Smith slinging the ball around more than 40 times, while the running backs barely touched it, that was the moment the alarm bells went from ringing to blaring. Because that's not just a bad game plan. That's a refusal to understand what the team needs. It's not adapting, it's not adjusting, it's not coaching to your personnel. It's doubling down on a strategy that hasn't worked all season and acting surprised when the results look exactly the same. And then when Geno talks throughout the week about letting it fly, and suddenly the game plan becomes, sure, let's let it fly, it doesn't feel like leadership. It feels like surrender. Like the coach is running with whatever the quarterback wants instead of what the team needs. That's the kind of decision that erodes confidence inside a locker room. You can sense it in the body language. You can sense it in the way players carry themselves off the field. And nothing captures that better than the decision to make Caleb Rogers inactive after there were whispers that he dared to say he expected to start. Whether the story is 100% accurate or not, the pattern itself is impossible to ignore. Rookies getting humbled while veterans get endless rope. Young talent sitting while older guys with worse production keep getting the nod. This staff keeps insisting that the rookies aren't showing enough, but then you look at players like Kai Blue Kelly getting series after series despite struggling the moment he steps onto the field. It's confusing, it's inconsistent, and it kills development. And when a team is 2-8, development should be the only thing anyone cares about anymore. Watching that offensive line rotation was another reminder of how disjointed everything has become. You hear all offseason about the long-term plan, the hours invested, the structure they want to build. Then in the middle of a disastrous season, they suddenly switch positions on the fly, as if all that work didn't matter at all. When things get tough, they abandon the structure they swore they believed in. When things go wrong, they stick with the same struggling pieces instead of letting the younger players grow. It feels like improv coaching, reaction instead of strategy. And then you look at the defensive breakdowns, and it becomes even harder to justify what this staff is doing. Week after week, there are receivers running completely free. Safeties being asked to play roles they're not built for. Veterans struggling to keep up, but continuing to see heavy snaps anyway. You see missed assignments, confused coverage, late adjustments, and a total lack of cohesion. And the heartbreaking part is that defense used to be Pete Carroll's identity. That used to be his masterpiece. And now, what was once a signature strength has turned into a glaring weakness. If the thing that's supposed to be your specialty is falling apart, then what are you holding on to? But maybe the biggest issue isn't even the scheme or the rotations or the weekly broken plays. It's the leadership. It's the stubbornness. It's the way this regime digs in its heels, even as everything burns down around them, refusing to admit that changes need to be made. Geno Smith keeps the job, no matter how many times the offense sputters. Chip Kelly keeps calling plays no matter how predictable things become. And Pete Carroll keeps defending each move as if everything happening on the field is something other than what we're all watching with our own eyes. A football team takes on the personality of its leaders, and right now the Raiders feel stuck in a loop built on excuses, reluctance, and misplaced loyalty. And that's why so many fans are reaching the same conclusion. Not because they dislike Pete Carroll as a person or disrespect what he's accomplished in his career. Nobody can take away what he's already done in the league. But the version of him coaching this team today isn't the same. This version looks tired, overwhelmed, a step behind the modern game. This version looks like someone trying to relive an era that doesn't exist anymore. And keeping him in place isn't just holding the team back this season. It's jeopardizing whatever future the Raiders hope to build. Because if you don't believe this regime will make the right decisions moving forward, then what exactly are you clinging to? And as this season drags on, you can almost feel the air getting heavier around this team. Like everyone knows what needs to happen, but nobody wants to be the one to say it out loud. The longer this goes on, the clearer it becomes that the Raiders are drifting without a compass. Every week feels like the same painful story unfolding again. The same mistakes repeating themselves, the same stubborn patterns playing out no matter how obvious the consequences are. And when leadership refuses to evolve, a team eventually reaches the point where it cannot grow, cannot improve, and cannot stay united. That is exactly where this locker room finds itself right now. You've got young players wondering why their effort isn't being rewarded, veterans wondering why accountability only applies to certain people, and fans wondering how a franchise with this much potential continues to look so lifeless. The most jarring part of all this is watching how quickly confidence evaporates when players feel they are being used without purpose. You can see it in the eyes of guys on the sideline. You can see it in the way some walk back to the bench after a busted coverage or a blown block. It's not just frustration with themselves, it's frustration with a system that doesn't give them a chance to succeed. When a coaching staff keeps repeating the same errors and expects different results, eventually players stop believing that anything is going to change. That's when a team checks out. And right now, it feels like this roster is teetering on the edge of that moment. You hear it in their post-game comments. You feel in the way they carry themselves. Something is broken, and it goes far deeper than missed tackles or bad play calls. And that's why the conversation about Pete Carroll stepping down isn't just emotional venting or heat-of-the-moment frustration. It's the logical next step when the foundation of a team has cracked this deeply. Right now, the Raiders are trying to build wins on top of sand. Nothing is stable. Nothing is consistent. Nothing looks like it's moving toward a long-term plan. Instead, it's week after week of plugging holes while ignoring the leaks underneath. And when the person at the top refuses to adapt, everyone else gets dragged down with him. This isn't about disrespecting a legacy. It's about acknowledging that legacies sometimes need protecting from chapters like this one. When a coach refuses to give young talent meaningful snaps on a team that's already sinking, it sends a message that development is secondary to loyalty. And that's not how you build a future. Look at how many times this staff has leaned on the same struggling veterans, while players like Darian Porter-Waite on the sideline despite clearly showing more consistency. Look at the way the staff insists rookies need to prove more, while others with worse production continue to take the field. This type of favoritism doesn't just create tension, it creates doubt. And doubt is the one thing no locker room can survive. Defensively, this team has reached a point where the breakdowns feel inevitable. Every game features those moments when receivers run untouched, when angles are missed, when a simple adjustment could have prevented a collapse but never came. And what stings even more is knowing that defense was supposed to be Pete Carroll's signature. If this roster can't execute the very principles he's built his career on, then what exactly is being taught? What exactly is being reinforced? What exactly is being fixed? At some point, constant confusion on the field becomes a reflection of confusion off the field. And that's what we're watching right now. a team mirroring the uncertainty of its leadership. Then there's the elephant in the room, the future of the quarterback position. Fans are already talking about draft scenarios, wondering who the next face of the franchise could be. But none of that matters if the leadership at the top isn't capable of making the right decision when the moment arrives. If your head coach has shown unwavering loyalty to a veteran who isn't elevating the team, what confidence can anyone have that he'd pull the trigger on a young quarterback who could reshape the franchise? And even if he did draft one, do you want that player being developed in this current environment, surrounded by this same indecision, the same stubbornness, the same reluctance to build an offense that fits the talent on the roster? Those are the questions fans are wrestling with. And those are the questions that make stepping down feel less like a dramatic move and more like a necessary reset. Because the longer this current structure holds, the more complicated the future becomes. You can't rebuild when the foundation is arguing with itself. You can't retool when leadership refuses to adapt. You can't improve when accountability only applies to certain corners of the roster. That's how franchises get stuck in cycles, and the Raiders have been stuck in one for far too long. This season was supposed to be different, and instead it's exposed every flaw that's been hiding beneath the surface. And you know what makes this even tougher for fans? The loyalty this fan base carries. Raider Nation shows up no matter what. They live and breathe this team through every high and every low. They wait all week for kickoff, even when the season feels lost. They defend their colors, even when the scoreboard gives them nothing to stand on. And they deserve better than this. They deserve leadership that listens. They deserve a coaching staff that adjusts. They deserve a team that plays with a plan, not desperation. Raider Nation is one of the most passionate fan bases in the world, and when they've reached the point of openly begging for change, that's not noise, that's truth. This isn't about anger anymore. It's not even about disappointment. It's about clarity. The clarity that comes when you've watched the same issues play out for months with no sign of improvement. The clarity that comes when a team keeps falling into the same traps because the person holding the map refuses to redraw the route. The clarity that comes when you recognize that holding on to something because it used to work is not the same as building something that will work again. The Raiders need someone who sees the direction football is moving, not someone trying to recreate a chapter that's already been written. And at this stage, the path forward becomes painfully obvious. Not easy, not comfortable, but obvious. The Raiders need new leadership. They need a new voice in the locker room, a new vision in the meeting rooms, a new energy on the practice field. They need someone who will commit to the young players, someone who will build schemes that match the roster, someone who will stop clinging to the past and start constructing a future. Because right now, everything feels stuck in place like a pause video waiting for someone to hit play again. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. A low-grade tremor has been rippling through the NFL grapevine, and it started with a single remark that slipped, or perhaps leapt, out of a Dallas Cowboys player during a post-game press conference. What began as a routine session with reporters has turned into one of the most talked-about whispers in league circles. A Cowboy apparently let loose a few unflattering words about the Las Vegas Raiders, and the echo has only grown louder since. People close to the locker room say the moment was brief, but sharp enough to raise eyebrows. The player, known for his competitive fire, allegedly questioned the Raiders' discipline and hinted that their identity on the field isn't what it used to be. Though the comment wasn't delivered with a shouting match or dramatic flair, insiders insist the tone carried a sting, one that the Raiders camp didn't take lightly. By the time the microphones were turned off, murmurs were already racing through social media, suggesting that tension between the franchises may be simmering far below the surface. Within hours, fans began replaying clips, dissecting facial expressions, and speculating on whether the remark reflected personal frustration or a broader sentiment held by others in Dallas. Raiders supporters have fired back with their own interpretations, framing the comment as either disrespect or insecurity. The whole situation has the feel of a spark searching for dry grass, small now, but capable of igniting something larger if either side adds fuel. Team spokespeople have tried to dial down the noise, offering the usual lines about competitive emotions, but league observers aren't convinced the story will fade so easily. Rivalries often grow from moments exactly like this: a subtle jab, a perceived slight, a quote that wasn't meant to travel as far as it did. And with players from both teams known for wearing their pride boldly, there's a sense that this story may have only begun its life in the rumor mill. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.